Hello, and welcome to Termageddon Privacy News Today, presented to you by Termageddon.com. We're a generator of privacy policies, and we've generated tens of thousands of privacy policies ourselves and have looked at hundreds of privacy policies of other companies. Just so you know, anything that we'll be talking about today should not be considered legal advice. If you are looking for legal advice, I would recommend speaking to an attorney in your area. So today we're going to talk about a Mozilla Foundation study that found multiple violations of privacy in connected cars. What's interesting about this study is that it looked at over 25 car brands and reviewed their privacy practices. This is a direct quote from them as to what they found. So they found that every car brand that they looked at collects more personal data than necessary and uses that information for a reason other than to operate your vehicle and manage their relationship with you, meaning that more data is collected than is needed and is being used for purposes that are not necessary and not necessarily what you might think that that information is going to be used for. So the first finding is that cars are collecting way too much personal data. So cars can collect personal data on how you interact with your car, the connected services you use in the car's app, and third-party sources. What's interesting and what most people don't realize is that connected cars have internal and external cameras as well, so they can see what's going on outside of your car as well as what's inside of the car. Now, there's some interesting information that's being collected by some brands. So, for example, Kia, Nissan, GM, Cadillac, Buick, and Chevrolet all collect genetic information. Not quite sure as to how that information is obtained, but apparently it is being collected. In addition, Nissan said that it collects information about your sexual activity. Really interesting to see where that is being collected as well, maybe through the internal and external cameras, but that information is being collected, and that information is really no purpose as to operating a particular vehicle, so it is interesting that it is being collected. The second finding is that 84% of the car manufacturers will share or sell your data. So 84% share data with service providers, data brokers, and more. The fact that data is shared with service providers isn't necessarily that concerning because it makes sense that data would need to be shared for certain features to be available through third parties. But the fact that data may be shared with data brokers is definitely concerning. So data brokers are parties that buy and sell data. 76% of the manufacturers may sell your personal data, and 56% can share your personal data with government or law enforcement upon request. So this means that the car manufacturers will not wait until the government or law enforcement comes to them with a valid warrant or anything like that. It's just that the government or law enforcement may request the data and they will give it to them regardless of whether or not they actually have a right to see that data. The third finding is that 92% of the car brands give drivers little to no control over their personal data. So they found that only 2 of the 25 brands allow consumers to request a deletion of their data. The interesting point here is that those 2 brands are located in the European Union, where it's required by law to allow consumers to delete their data. And many of the other brands are not located in the EU or do not offer that right. So while they do collect a lot of this information, the EU may not necessarily want them to collect, and they also share it and sell it. You may not even be able to stop them from doing that. The fourth finding is that companies may not meet minimum security standards. So the Mozilla Foundation survey found that not a single one of these companies meet their minimum security standards. And what this means here is that the foundation was not able to confirm whether the data is actually encrypted. So that's an issue because they collect a lot of sensitive data, and the fact that the data is not encrypted means that it's open to anyone who wants to access it potentially. A great example is that Toyota exposed the data of 2.5 million customers for more than 10 years due to misconfigured cloud. So you can see how quickly this information may be breached, especially since it's not encrypted. So all of these car manufacturers have a lot of issues, but other things that came out of the study is that people consent to the privacy settings just by being a passenger in the car. So if you own a car that has all these features and is a connected car and you have a passenger, that means that they automatically consented to these potential privacy violations just by being a passenger without being required to agree to anything. Tesla says that if you stop data collection, then the car may break. Certain features like maps may not work, which is a big issue because that could be a safety issue in the future as well. And others require you to inform passengers of privacy practices. And being a privacy lawyer, that sounds like a good time to me, but I'm sure that no one wants to inform their passengers of their car's privacy practices, but that's what some of these require. So basically, all car manufacturers had issues, with Renault and Dacia having the least issues, and Nissan and Tesla having the most problems. So yeah, so that's the outline of the Mozilla Foundation study on connected cars. I would definitely recommend you to check out their privacy not included lists, which include a lot of different products. They have a great list that comes out during the holidays of potential gifts where they rate things from not at all creepy to super creepy. It's a great resource.